తెలంగాణలో మొబిలిటీ రంగంలో మంచి అవకాశాలున్నాయన్నారు బాస్క్ గ్లోబల్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ టెక్నాలజీ ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ లీడర్షిప్ టీమ్ మెంబర్ కే షెనోయ్. 3,000 మందికి ఉపాధి కలిగించేలా రాష్ట్రంలో ఏఐ అండ్ సేఫ్టీ సొల్యూషన్ ఆటోమేటివ్ ప్లాంట్ నెలకొల్పుతామని ఆయన అన్నారు. ఈ సందర్భంగా ఆటోమేటివ్ సేఫ్టీ అండ్ ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ లో తెలంగాణ ప్రభుత్వంతో కలిసి పనిచేయటం ఎంతో సంతోషంగా ఉందన్నారు. 2030 నాటికి 90% వాహనాలు సాఫ్ట్వేర్ టెక్నాలజీతో నడుస్తాయని వివరించారు. ఈ క్రమంలో సైబర్ సెక్యూరిటీ చాలా అవసరమన్న షెనోయ్ అందుకు అవసరమైన జాగ్రత్తలు తమ టీం తీసుకుంటుందని చెప్పారు. మొబిలిటీ రంగంలో మంచి అవకాశాలు ఉన్నాయని, వాటిని ఉపయోగించుకుని మరిన్ని పెట్టుబడులు పెడతామని అన్నారు. రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం మొబిలిటీ సెక్టార్లో చూపిస్తున్న చొరవను కే షెనోయ్ అభినందించారు. దేశంలోనే తొలిసారి ఫార్ములా ఈ రేస్ హైదరాబాద్లో జరగటం అభినందనీయమని అన్నారు. ఇలాంటి మహానగరంలో పెట్టుబడులు పెట్టడం గర్వంగా ఉందని ఆయన అన్నారు.
Mobility earlier was seen as a pure mechanical unit, but meanwhile it's only electronics. In next 10 years, of course, the content of the vehicle will be more than 50% in terms of electronics, and almost 70-80% will be software driven. That means every vehicle will be software driven or software defined. That's why there is a lot of growth we foresee in mobility, and also ability to bring a lot of features onto the road.
By 2030, most of the 90% of the vehicle innovations are going to be the software related.
Yeah.
Mostly, how Bosch is gear up to this capture this software growth?
Yeah. As I rightly said, when the software is increasing in mobility and all the features that are needed for the cars are being software defined, it was important that for Bosch to bring first of all the domains together. So we have cross-domain solutioning team which now works not just by say powertrain or safety or driver assistance, etc. Now these teams work in a horizontal mode where we are able to develop solutions for the vehicle when it comes onto the road. Additionally, the software content, since it's growing, we are almost now in India more than 25,000 engineers working on software and product engineering, which goes on to mobility. In fact, the center in Hyderabad as well, we added because of that, because we need the talent which is able to develop future software that goes on to these vehicles, not just for India, but majority of this work is for the globe, for across the world.
How is Bosch preparing itself to addressing the whatever mobility market needs?
Yeah, the one side was the talent part to build the required expertise. So there we are working with universities to build the talent in terms of academia, lab infrastructure, and even the faculty development program, so that we can develop the talent that's needed. Second is on the infrastructure. We're working with many service providers as well as startup ecosystem to be able to develop future systems, because vehicles are no longer developed and released onto the road. Once the vehicle goes onto the road, for example, if we see one of the Indian OEMs which released the vehicle recently, we orchestrated the software that goes onto the dashboard, say in Mahindra. And there, once a vehicle goes onto the road, it's possible to bring a lot of applications onto it. Some of these applications we would develop, for example, prognosis, whether it's engine or brakes and things like that. But on the other side, we also need applications which can come from third party, say even a startup. And these applications are integrated and then released. And this happens on a continuous basis. So we are working on one side with the OEMs where the boundary is blurring between the OEMs, tier 1 like Bosch, and say software engineering, software providers, and the startups themselves. So in this ecosystem as Bosch, we are strengthening our engagement with all of them so that we can bring extreme high value to end customers onto the road.
What are the challenges you see in this automating or digitalizing the mobility sector? How we are going to face these challenges?
Yeah. One of the main trends, as we mentioned, was called PACE: personalization, automated, the connected and electrified. Each one of them is growing. When you talk about personalization, was the example I gave, where on the dashboard we are able to bring the applications. Similarly, when you talk about automated, as you rightly asked, already there are vehicles on the road which we developed in the India Center, and they come on to the India road where level 2 automated is already possible, where you have emergency braking, lane keep, and features like that. And connected, we are done for some more OEMs where we are able to use intelligence on the car as well as take the data onto the cloud and do analytics on the cloud and bring back the features that are needed. And then, of course, electrified. More and more vehicles we believe will be electrified. Now, each one of the trends, when you look at, it is not just developing them, but to ensure that they are safe when they go onto the road. One simple example with connectivity, it's quite possible that there could be, cyber attacks on the vehicles. You can modify the software from outside, or even the features that we envisage in the beginning, but this can be happening on the roads, on the vehicles when they're onto the roads. And that's why we have strong security teams, cyber security teams which develop algorithm to make this vehicle safe. On the other side, functional safety becomes important. As and when we go higher on the automated driving modes, it's important that these algorithms are strong enough that they can maneuver any obstacle or manage any circumstances in which the vehicle will be, and that is the functional safety aspect of it. So these two are strong areas. Of course, then you need to know also the domain expertise combined with the software expertise, and that is where we are actually bringing all the teams together from different domains and working closely with the OEMs, looking at the user experience part of it, how the end user wants, bring onto the vehicle, but at the same time ensure that they are safe and secure when it goes onto the road.
What are the Bosch Global Technologies plans in Telangana, particularly in Hyderabad?
Yeah, that's a good question. Since we are here in Hyderabad and we are having this event, for sure, we started the center just a year ago. I think in Hyderabad we are latecomers, but I'm happy to say that we are more than almost 1,500 associates already in Hyderabad city. And the center which has come up here is state of the art. In fact, if you compare the facilities, what we have in Hyderabad vis-a-vis other locations, I think this is the top or best one, I would say. Second is we are growing further. We know that very soon we'll reach 3,000 people in the center because the availability of talent here as well as the ecosystem. For example, even the ecosystem of startups, what we have seen, whether it's the T-Hub or the co-working spaces working with startups, etc., we believe that this can be effectively used to innovate for India and the globe itself. And that's why I am strongly of the opinion that Hyderabad Center will grow exponentially going forward due to all these reasons. Of course, we also believe that other partners who are there in Hyderabad will help us to make that happen, whether it's OEMs or engineering service provider or software companies and startups themselves. Last but not the least, of course, the universities. We are in connect with many universities in and around Hyderabad, including, for example, IIT Hyderabad. And I'm confident that with the expertise available there and the infrastructure that is coming up there, for example, for automated driving, testing, etc., these are ecosystem which is very important to innovate out of Hyderabad or Telangana as a state for the world.
What are the opportunities are there for the startups in this mobility ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a good question because somehow we were always feeling that startups are in their own space earlier and quite disconnected from the large companies like Bosch. Meanwhile, it's not true. When you talk about new features that come onto the vehicle, especially software driven, it's quite possible that we actually get these features or functions which are even AI driven, whether it's analytics that runs on the vehicle or whether it is features that are applications that come onto the head unit, for example, where you can access. And these applications can very well be developed by startups, and this can come into multiple of vehicles. It can be systems from Bosch or any other suppliers or any OEM. And this is a space which is not well utilized as of now. I believe that the technology startups which are there even in the startup ecosystem we are seeing here in Hyderabad will be able to make it, and will work closely in terms of having hackathons, in terms of giving problem statements to them so that they can actually develop systems. And we can be one of the users, but also can be used by many other system suppliers like Bosch as well as OEMs. So there is a great amount of opportunity, and I think this we can utilize very well in this ecosystem itself.
Finally, sir, how can Telangana can be benefited in this global supply chain in the mobility?
Yeah, that's a good question. Here I would actually try to touch what is happening on the global ecosystem. It is clear that we are having clustering. Meanwhile, you see the Americas as one cluster, Europe as another, and ASEAN. Of course, China looks like it will be a separate cluster. But in the ASEAN, including Korea, Japan, etc., that could be a region for which actually India can be a very good hub, not just for development, because development, meanwhile, we do most part of the development out of India Center already. But I'm talking about even manufacturing. Since products are needed for this space of the world, I'm sure India could play a much bigger role than what we are doing today, not just for the India requirement, but the ASEAN and including China, including Japan and Korea, for example. So products that are developed from here, manufactured here, could very well be exported. We already see this trend, as you see from OEMs. And I think it will also go to a lot of electronic products that gets into it, which also then the software is embedded and delivered. And this is a big space which also Telangana can make use of, and I'm sure it will happen very soon as we speak.